Okay, ratios and proportions. Can someone tell me what a ratio is? Do you know anything about ratios? Okay.
I don't know if this is like the legit definition, but I think like categories. So like 5 would be like the 2 dots. I don't know what they're called, but like with 1 that'd be like considered a ratio.
Okay, so you guys are explaining what they look like for sure. Yeah.
Usually for every unit, it has a I don't know the word, but another unit that it would. So say if you have one unit of like a box, you have 2 units of a circle. So it's like for every box, there's 2 circles.
Okay, so everyone's definitely explaining what it is. In simple terms for everyone, ratios are just fractions. No, everyone explained it really well, but ratios are fractions. And more specifically, they are a comparison of values. So that's kind of what everyone was explaining. It's the comparison of values. So we may see it as a legit fraction, 1 over 2. Okay. You may see it written as 1 and then a colon 2, and you would read that as 1, 2, 2. Or 1, the word 2, and then 2. So those are 3 different ways, but it is a comparison. So this could be for every 1 girl in this class, there are 2 boys. That's obviously not a true statement for our class, but it's comparing 2 different things. What? Okay. All right. So we actually kind of knew what a ratio was, even though we didn't say the formal definition. We kind of knew what we were talking about, right? Proportions. Anyone have an idea what a proportion is?
The chunk out of the whole. A piece of it.
Oh, I see where you're going with that. Okay. So proportions are just equal ratios. Why do I keep adding an N? Try that again. It's just ratios. There's no N there. Okay, equal ratios. So if I give you 1 over 2, an equal ratio to 1 over 2 would be 2 over 4. Do you agree with that? Because 2 over 4, what can we divide by? 2, and we'd get 1 over 2, right? We'd get 1/2. So a proportion are 2 ratios that are set equal to each other. They're equal ratios. You may have seen something like this in the past. X over 6 equals 3 over 18. Does that look familiar?
Oh.
Yeah, we're not going to solve it quite yet, but does anyone remember how to solve this proportion?
You would cross multiply.
Cross multiply. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. But this is what a proportion is. It's 2 ratios set equal to each other. Okay? But let's start with a word problem. Yay! Here we go. I would like you to write it, please. It's not that bad. Okay. A girls' soccer team won 10 games and lost 2 games. A boys' soccer team won 12 games and lost 3 games. Okay, so that's some background information. The girls' team won 10 games, lost 2. The boys' team won 12, lost 3. So here's the information we're going to find from that. We're going to write a ratio for the girls' wins to the girls' losses. We're going to write a ratio for the girls' wins to the girls' losses. So that's part A. Part B, we're going to write a ratio for the boys' wins to the boys' losses. And part C, we want to know who has the better ratio. The better win ratio, excuse me. So we're going to, again, write a ratio for the girls' wins to the girls' losses. We're going to write a ratio for the boys' wins to the boys' losses. And then we want to know who has the better win ratio. So basically, who has the better record, right? That's what it's asking for. Are we still copying? Yeah? Okay, let's write a ratio for the girls. How many wins do they have?
10.
And how many losses?
2.
2. So 10 over 2 is my ratio. But like with every fraction that we come across, you should always simplify it. We need to have an equal ratio. What can I simplify 10 over 2 by?
5. 2.
By 2, giving me
5.
5 over
1.
1. So that ratio says for every 5 games the girls win, they lose 1 game. That's what this ratio is. For every 5 games they win, they lose a game. Okay? So let's do the same thing for the boys. How many have they won?
12.
12. And they lost?
3.
3. What is 12 over 3 reduced to?
4.
4 over 1. So the boys, for every 4 games they win, they lose a game. Who has the better win ratio?
Girls.
The girls do. I may have written it that way.
Slap.
Okay, but the girls win more games before they lose a game versus the guys don't win as many before they lose, according to this ratio. Okay, so the important thing here is 1, you're setting up the ratios and you may have to compare them, but 2, always, always, always simplify your ratios before you do anything else. Okay, you have to simplify it to its simplest form. Okay, so let's practice just simplifying, because if we can't simplify, we're going to have a hard time in this unit. I'm going to do one with you. Again, we're concerned about simplifying the ratio. So we have 6 over 12. What can I reduce? And before you answer, so the question is, what can I reduce 6 and 12 by? However, you want to think of the largest number that goes into both 6 and 12. Because if you start with the smallest number, you're going to have to reduce quite a few times. So we want to simplify it as much as we can at the very beginning. So what's the largest number that goes into 6 and 12? Okay, good. You guys are just waiting. So my ratio then is 1/2. Okay, so largest number you can simplify by. So I'm going to give you a couple to reduce. So I would like you to reduce 4 over 18, 9 over 27, 6 over 21, and 5 over 30. Okay, so take a couple minutes, seconds, minutes, I don't know, we'll see. And reduce those 4. So again, 4 over 18, 9 over 27, 6 over 21, and 5 over 30. I'm going to call in random groups. So group F. Group F. What did you reduce number 1 by, and what is your final answer? So tell me what you reduced by and what your final answer is. Number 1. What did you reduce by? So what number did you divide by, and what's your final answer?
The first one.
Yep.
Okay, so I reduced by 2.
And you got?
2 out of
Perfect. So 2/9 should have been your answer for number 1. You divide by 2. Group G. What, for number 2, what did you reduce by?
9.
Okay, and your final answer? Nice. So you reduced by 9, your final answer is 1/3. Group C. For number 3, what did you reduce by, and what is your final answer?
For 3,
Uh-huh.
we reduced by 3 and got 2/7.
Perfect. So you reduced by 3 and you got 2/7. And group H. What did you reduce by for number 4? And what is your final answer?
We reduced by 5 and got 1/6.
Perfect. Reduce by 5 and you get 1/6. You should be able to reduce ratios. Okay? Super, super important. Now let's go to solving proportions. Any questions on reducing ratios before we move on to actually solving? Okay. Your answers could be decimals / fractions, because they're the same thing, just written a different way for these problems. I want all answers as a reduced fraction. No decimal answers. Because we're practicing reducing ratios, so I want your answer to be a ratio. Yes?
Would we get improper fractions as answers?
Yes, I want you to keep them as improper, so you don't have to make them a mixed number. Okay? All right. We're going to do this first one together. So x over 3 equals 10/15. X over 3 equals 10/15. Now up here when I told you what a proportion was, a lot of you told me you knew what you were supposed to do, and you said we need to cross multiply, right?
Yeah.
Okay, when we say cross multiply, you are literally multiplying at a diagonal. So as long as it's a ratio equal to a ratio, you're able to cross multiply. Okay. So x times 15 is 15x. 3 times 10 is 30. There's no more fractions now. Okay, we still have the equal sign. It doesn't matter if they're flipped, but you cross multiply and get an equation. Everyone okay with that part? Okay? This now is an equation. Yeah.
That's what a proportion is.
This is a proportion. 2 ratios set equal to each other. Okay? Then we cross multiply, we get an equation. Let's go back to IM1. How would I solve for x?
Divide by 15.
Divide by 15.
On both sides.
Okay? X equals
2.
2. So if I plugged in 2 here, is 2/3 the same as 10/15?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can reduce this by 5 and I would get 2/3. I told you up top, a proportion were just equal ratios.
Also, so if we can simplify even more, you can technically do that then?
Yes, but I wouldn't do that quite yet because not all of them you're going to be able to, so I would just do the steps.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I was saying the same thing, like, I'm gonna ask the same question you said, I don't know if
Okay.
it's the same, but is it like, I don't know, were you saying like how the 5, like you times, okay, cause I was thinking like 3 times 5, that equals 15, so if you divide 10 times divided by 5, that's
So yes, you can figure it out that way. So 3 times 5 gives me 15, right? So if I divide by 5, I get 2. For this type of problem, you can. In 2 problems, you're not going to be able to do that, so I want you to practice the process. Okay? So we'll go with a basic one still, but I would like you to solve using the process. Yes, Jordan?
What's the difference between a ratio and a fraction?
It's the same thing.
Can I not ask that? I just want a better my learning with math.
Okay, so 7, so number 2, 7/x equals 21/4. I would like you to solve for x. So take a second and solve for x. So you're going to cross multiply. and you should have 21x equals 28.
Yes.
Okay? Then you divide by 21, and if you went to plug this into your calculator, you got 1.3, I believe. And I said you couldn't have a decimal. So you needed to reduce this ratio. What number goes into 28 and 21? 7. So 7 goes into 28 4 times and into 21 3 times. Your final answer should have been 4/3. Okay. Are we okay with that one? What's wrong? Was that a yes? Oh, okay. It was a tired yes. Okay, so it seems like we can do the basic ones. Let's try this one. So how about 3 over y minus 2 equals 15 over y? 3 over y minus 2 equals 15 over y. It's still a proportion. There's still equal ratios. We're still going to cross multiply. Okay? So we'll do this one together. So if I cross multiply, 3 times y is
3y.
3y. 15 times y minus 2, I can write like that. 15 times y minus 2. Do you agree with that? Okay. What does this tell me I have to do? Distribute. So 3y equals 15y minus 30. You need to make sure that you distribute to both terms. That's super important. We now have an equation we should be able to solve. If I go back to IM1, what should I do first?
Subtract 15y.
Okay, so we're going to subtract 15y. 3y minus 15y?
Is 12, negative 12y.
Negative 12y equals negative 30. I still need to get y by itself. So what do I do from there? Divide by negative 12. Now if I plug that into my calculator, you're going to get a decimal, so we're going to reduce it by hand. Y equals. First of all, a negative divided by a negative is?
A positive.
A positive. So I know my answer is going to be positive. What's the largest number that goes into 30 and 12?
6.
6. 6 goes into 30 5 times. 6 goes into 12 twice. My final answer is 5/2. What?
It's like double fractions. It's like the x, or like the y, and like.
Okay, hold on. Someone's asking me a question.
It's like a double fraction, cause like if y is under 3, and y equals a fraction. It's like a double fraction. You know, it's like a double fraction. No, it's like. No, I need to write it. I need to write it. I need to write. I just.
Last problem I would like you to try on your own and or with your group. 4 over x plus 2 equals 16 over x plus 5. So take a second, and with your group, I would like you to solve for x. All right, if I cross multiply, you have 4 times x plus 5 equals 16 times x plus 2. If yours are switched, that's okay. You're going to get the same answer. Some of you can skip this step and go straight to the next one of 4x plus 20 equals 6x plus 32. But I would be careful with that. What do I do now to get x by itself? What should I do first to solve?
Subtract 20 from both sides.
I'm going to subtract the 4x to start. If you didn't do that, that's okay. But I'm going to subtract 4x, leaving me with 20 equals 12x plus 32. I want x by itself. So what do I do from there?
Subtract 32.
Subtract 32. So negative 12 equals 12x. Final step is to divide by 12. You should have gotten x equals negative 1.
So like for that one, I got like the one with the